Okay, so let's imagine we've made the conspiracy hypothesis. And that hypothesis is that there are special interest groups. They conspire to manipulate the public. They specifically do so against the public good for their own benefit. That's the alternative hypothesis. Of course, the null hypothesis is there are no special interest groups, and any special interest groups that behaved in their own interest was not illegal, not unethical, and they weren't manipulating the public. So we've now set up our hypotheses and our logically inconsistent worldviews. So if we look into our alternate hypothesis, we really have two basic dimensions that we're looking at. The first is the special interest group. We are hypothesizing that there is some special interest group. We don't know who they are, what they're doing, etc. But we're just suggesting that some special interest group has conspired against the public. So the idea is that there are a set of things that would benefit the public and a set of things that would benefit a special interest group. And the hypothesis is that when these two are pitted against each other, that the special interest group would do the things against the public good for their own benefit. Okay, and these would be illegal or unethical or immoral. Okay, so let's cross these axes. So on the top here, we've got public benefit or harm. And on the vertical here, we have either the special interest, benefit, or no benefit. So we could make predictions that look like this. Under the null hypothesis, where the special interests and the public good are aligned, then we should expect that things that benefit the public and the special interests both increase. But also we would expect that under the alternate hypothesis, that things that benefit the special interest and the public also increase. Okay, so this particular situation doesn't tell us much. This is our white swan column. Similarly, things that harm the public and harm special interests, we would expect that also to be suppressed, both under the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. Okay, so again, this one doesn't tell us much. What does tell us a lot is if the special interest group were promoting things that were in their own benefit, but not benefiting the public good, this is where we can start to see a difference between what we'd expect under the null hypothesis, which is that things that harm the public are suppressed, but under the alternate hypothesis, we would expect things that harm the public would be promoted if it benefits the special interest. Okay, so now we have our first black swan event that we can look for. But there are more. Similarly, things that are beneficial to the public that have no benefit to special interests, we would expect under the null hypothesis that there is no conspiracy, that these things would still be promoted. It's good for the public, special interests get no benefit, so we should see these things being promoted. But under the alternate hypothesis, this is another black swan event. This is something where, because it doesn't benefit the special interests, it will be suppressed, even if the public does benefit. So if we found evidence in which public benefits were being suppressed because there was no benefit to special interests, this again would be another black swan event. So just to clarify, there are things that benefit both groups, and we can't make a clear prediction about that. And there are things that harm both groups, and we can't make a clear prediction about those. But in our search for black swan events with this conspiracy hypothesis, then we can look for things in which there are opposite predictions under the null and alternate hypothesis. And that is true for things that harm the public and benefit the special interest groups, and things that have no benefit to special interests but benefit the public. Okay, and so if we were to ignore all the things that give us no information, we can narrow down our search space and start creating predictions based on these things alone. And this gives us the power of using hypothesis testing to examine whether there is any kind of conspiracy. Okay, so what we can do is we can turn these into very specific predictions. So based on my alternate hypothesis, I can predict that if the public health is going to be harmed, but special interests are going to be benefited, then we should see these kinds of things being promoted. That would be a black swan event that indicates some level of conspiracy. And these are the kinds of things that we can look for as evidence that there was some kind of conspiracy. In exactly the same way, we could find things that did benefit the public health, or that would have benefited the public health but were suppressed, because they didn't have a benefit to the special interests. Okay, so these are the two clearest predictions of our alternate hypothesis.